This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Mr. Hamilton?
Mr. Stelter? You're rocking the Stone Glacier hat today. What's going on with that?
Yeah, well, this is so you wouldn't know about this, but some of us that attended the Life Member Breakfast at the Wild Sheep Foundation this year got these cool hats.
Why didn't I get one brought back for me? I was
because you have to pay for it, buddy. I'm a friend, but I'm not like your.
I was a paid member. I'm a paid life member of the foundation, and I paid to attend the banquet.
Were you at? You weren't a life member 2 years ago, were you?
No.
Okay, so you've never been to a life member breakfast. Okay, so you got to. No. So now you're a life member. You got to, and we're going to talk membership here because we talked this with Randy on this episode, which is fantastic. So the kind of the pinnacle for the Wild Sheep Foundation is their life member breakfast. It's so much fun. You get in there. They give away a La Pomosa sheep hunt. Like that's what we're talking about. This is a $90,000 US sheep hunt, and you got as good a chance as anyone as winning that hunt. So, but you got to be in the room to do it. So, of course, this year you didn't win it because you weren't in the room. The worst thing is they draw the name and you're not in the room and you're watching online. You're like, Steve Hamilton's like, oh my goodness, like,
you'd immediately become me.
Yeah. So, Life Member Breakfast is a great time. But anyway, they sell hats. And I'm on the Life Member Breakfast Committee, so I'm involved with all of it. So this year we had 5 donors. We had Sitka, Stone Glacier, Barney's, Cryptek, and Kuyu. And they each donated 100 hats. And you can see that it's got the WSF logo. It says Life Member on it. And so we had 500 hats, and we sold 500 hats in 28 minutes. So what happens is they pay $50 a hat, or you can buy all 5 for $200. So it's a deal, but you get your name in the hat drawing. And what they do is they pull out a floor credit of $1,000. So each one of those hats gets $1,000 floor credit, and you can spend it however you want. You can spend it on the floor with the vendors. You can spend it on raffles, wherever you want to spend that money. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity. You get these cool hats. I've got all 5. And then you also get your chance to win a raffle. Like Randy said, if you actually saved your money instead of spending on these bloody raffles, you could buy a sheep hunt, right? So
how many people show up for the Life Member Breakfast?
It's a good number. It was tiny over the years, 300, 400. I think we were 800 this last tiny? Year.
300?
Well, it was
That's
back then, right?
It's
incredible. And the energy in that room when you're drawing a sheep hunt, just so much excitement. And it's a lot of fun. So this year we had Guy Eastman. He was a keynote, and he brought out from Eastman's.
The journal.
People probably know about it. His grandfather started Eastman's, and so he had stuff from his grandfather. So he narrated it.
Oh, that's cool.
It was off the hook. It was just I've only been to 3 or 4 over the years of the Life Member Breakfast, and that one just stands out. It was so entertaining. Guy did such a great job. He's, conservationist, believes in what we do as a sheep hunter, and it was so cool to watch and listen to that. It was a lot of fun. So, you got to come next year.
Yeah, I got to the lesson 1 last time, and that was awesome as well. Watching 4 or 5 hunts being drawn, and people in the room. People like the same thing. You have to be there for the majority of them, and somebody will Gray will pull the name and like Kyle Stelter, and it'll be quiet. Kyle Stelter, and it's like, oh shit, he's not here. So, but
buddy, he's not pulling my name because I already got a sheep. I couldn't have my name in there.
International, buddy.
You're right.
International.
Yeah.
See, hey.
So less than one eye. So anyone listening and doesn't know what less than one eye is, go to Wild Sheep Foundation's website, check out Less Than One Club. It's the one club you want to be kicked out of. And it's a very, very, very cool concept from the foundation. So check that out at wildsheepfoundation.org. Okay, so we had Randy Newberg on this cast. And, Randy, been following him for years and just love what he stands for, his messaging. Huge advocate for conservation, huge advocate for public access hunting. Just a great human being and just a really great advocate to have on our side. And he didn't disappoint. He had so many great messages on this podcast to just sat in awe and listen to Randy talk.
Oh, such a great storyteller. Like I've watched, like I said, followed for years, listened to his podcast, watched his videos, and getting a chance to talk. He's just the same. Like it's like you're sitting around a campfire having a BS with him. And again, another guest that we've had that's inspiring.
No disrespect intended, but not your typical accountant.
Definitely
all the accountants out there, I love you, but Randy Newberg is not your typical
when I threw that number out there, like off the top of his head, yeah. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, there's the accountant in him. I'm like, I'm trying to get the computer up and running, like the calculator, and it's like bang off the top of his head. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the accountant, and you'll hear me say that.
yeah, for sure. So no, just a great chat with Randy. So one thing you're going to hear him talk about is his conservation ethos. And for those of you that are, listening to these podcasts, love having you along for the ride. And if you're not a member and we're the Wild Sheep Society BC, I'm not going to tell you not to join our organization. We'd love to have you, but there's a lot of great conservation organizations out there. So if the society doesn't speak to you, look at your local community and see what you can do. And yeah, we'd love to have you in BC here for Wild Sheep and the great work that our members are doing. But there's a lot of great organizations out there doing the same thing, whether it be Wild Sheep or any other resource that we talk about. So,
absolutely.
So, I'm going to do a bit of a pitch for membership here. So on the podcast, you can hear Randy and Steve and I talk about the Wild Sheep Foundation has a membership drive and appreciation raffle going on right now. So it's an opportunity to go sheep hunting in the Northwest Territories. There's 8 outfitters that are part of the Association of Mackenzie Mountain Outfitters. This year, AMO got together and they talked to all their outfitters, all 8 of them, and said, hey, do you guys want to work with the Wild Sheep Foundation? And what we're going to do is we're going to offer a sheep hunt, and the winner gets to pick who they go hunt with. So there's 8 outfitters in the territories, and you can pick any of those 8 outfitters. So you hear of words like Ghana River, you hear of Raven's Throat, you hear of all these organizations, all these outfitters in the Mackenzie Mountains that are world-renowned hunts, and all 8 of them are fantastic. You can't go wrong, and you get to pick which one you get. This is a hunt that has never been done before. This is a fantastic opportunity. So for anyone interested in joining the foundation, upgrading, this is the time to do it. So go over to wildsheepfoundation.org. You're going to see right on the homepage there's a spot to click for membership. And so if you upgrade, you get more chances to win. If you're already the Summit Life member and you don't have anywhere else to go, you can just buy extra tickets. I think we've capped it at 5, but it's a great opportunity to go and sheep hunt of a lifetime. And obviously you're going to be supporting a great organization, the Wild Sheep Foundation. So really exciting. And I forgot to mention, you get to do it with Adam Foss. Adam Foss is going to come along. He's going to be your personal videographer.
I heard he's going to carry your bags too. Right, Adam?
You're making friends there, buddy. So, great opportunity for anyone that is thinking about joining. We've never had a membership opportunity like this. This is a one-off to get this opportunity. And it runs till June 30th. So you still got a few months left, but you want to make sure you're part of that. And it's definitely the hunt of a lifetime for anyone that's thinking about going sheep hunting. So I think we've done that justice. So
absolutely.
Randy Newberg, I don't need to do much introduction there for Randy, just a fantastic human being. He's deeply steeped in the hunting community. Public lands is front and center. He does such great work on that end of things. And I think you're going to enjoy episode 69 with the one and only Mr. Randy Newberg.
If we told you tomorrow that elk, black bear, and bighorn sheep were next, would you speak up? Wildlife needs to be managed by science and not by emotion. And you don't have to be a hunter to take part in this movement. You just have to want sound management of our wildlife in BC. Go to wildsheepsociety.com/act now to use your voice and demand that BC not use our wildlife as pawns in a game of social management. Act now. Or The things that you love could be next.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on to Talk His Sheep, Randy.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much. Steve, thanks for having me. I wish we were doing this in person.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe in September.
Hey, that works. I know where you're going with this. You're going with this.
Isn't it amazing that in today's world, we can be this far apart and have this face-to-face conversation and talk about these cool things?
It's delightful yet scary yet, I was talking to my wife about this, I think it was last night. It's such a weird world that, you can connect, like virtually like this and just with anyone at any time. And it's so accessible and it's kind of ruined the mystique or whatever, like going to see a guest speaker somewhere, right? Like, because if you want, you can go and see Randy Newberg at any given time now, right? And it's a little scary in some capacity, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, it's probably good that people can get an advanced preview because that'll keep them from wasting their time and money to come and see me and then be disappointed. So,
wow. I think it's going to be interesting, this transition as we come out of this phase of, with COVID now and stuff. And we're seeing it. We were at Sheep Show. I ran into you in Reno there, which was really cool to see. But even then, I recognize your voice. I didn't recognize your face. You're all masked up at the Life Member Breakfast. And I'm like, I know that voice. And right away, I'm like, oh, shoot, it's Randy. And then, but you can't recognize people either, right? So
that is so common, since everyone's been wearing masks. People will be looking at me like, I think I recognize him. And then when I talk, they'll come up to me and say, I knew that was you. I'm like, really? I'm that distinctive, huh? But, okay. So.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be interesting, this transition as we come out of it and what our new events look like. And, I think the one thing about COVID, we've had to reinvent the world a little bit and how we do things. And I think it's going to be kind of a little scary, but a little bit of a fun transition to see how we come out of this and what we look like over the next couple of years, because it is going to be different. It's not the same. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I know for us, we've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and a lot of that's good stuff we'll use going forward.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're in your recording studio, are you? I see a bear,
Yep.
I see a wolf, I see it looks like a doll sheep. Is that a doll there, or what do you got behind you? That's your doll.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Got a little bit of everything in here. We just moved in September, and we're on the road all the time in September. So we're like that family that had to move in a hurry, and they're still living out of boxes. That's kind of what it is. There's supposed to be a bunch of sound panels behind me in this studio, but we haven't got them up yet. So right now we do have to deal with a bear pelt and a wolf pelt. So
could be worse, right?
That works for me.
Could be.
So Randy, let's talk a little bit about, actually, if you don't mind, let's go back to the early Randy. So obviously we know your accounting history, and your transition to your new career, which is really cool. But, where, in your formative years, where did it come from? Where's your passion for wildlife and conservation come from?
Yeah, like a lot of people, probably a lot of your listeners, I grew up in a community, little logging town of 500 people called Big Falls, Minnesota. And everybody hunted, fished, and trapped. It wasn't a matter of if you will. It's a matter of when can I go? When can I start? And everybody I knew, every mentor, every person in the community who I looked up to as a youngster was a hunter, an angler. A lot of them were trappers. Very skilled woodsmen. And so that was what I wanted to be when I grew up. It's like, I want to hunt. I want to hunt. And I didn't realize it at the time how much that upbringing was going to guide my path and build my ethos and my ideologies about how I see the world. But I guess now, reflecting on it, it all makes sense to me. But if you were to have come to a dinner at my house, at the neighbor's house, at anyone's house, there's a really good chance that what was on that plate, what was being served there, was something we caught, something we shot, or something we went and harvested, blueberries, raspberries, wild onions, wild asparagus, whatever it was. The amount of food we took responsibility for and grew or harvested ourselves was the majority of what we had. And I just grew up thinking that's how life was. I didn't know any different. And then I go off to college in Minneapolis and go see the big world. It's like, whoa, I really grew up in the backwoods here. But what I realized is it gave me a connection to land and water and the clean air, the clean water, the productive space. That it was something that gave me a view of the world that maybe a lot of other people aren't blessed to have. And all of us who've grown up in those little towns, we're 16 years old. We're like, boy, I can't wait to get out of this one horse town. You're kind of bemoaning that the movie theater's 40 miles away and, there's not a fast food joint for 75 miles. And you really think the life's bad. And then you leave there and you realize what a blessing it is to have an upbringing where you are that connected to the wild world in a space and time we live in today where that connection is very rare. And so I can't think of any other path I would have taken. Now, in retrospect, I went to be an accountant, in the U.S. here. I'm a tax accountant for 35 years, and that's pretty boring. But it serves a good purpose. In the United States, the tax deadline for most of your tax work gets done by April 15th. So my wife loves to fish, so we had 80% of our work done in the first 4 months of the year. They left a lot of time to go fishing and hunting. So
was that intentional? Did you made that decision? Said, okay, I want my falls free, so I'm going to go into accountant work.
Yeah, my wife often says that if the tax filing season was in the fall, you wouldn't have become an accountant. I said, well, for sure. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Why are you even asking me that? So yeah, it worked out that way, and then moved to Montana 31 years ago, and we only have one kid, and it was all about the outdoor world for us. I asked him probably 2 months ago, you ever play any baseball? Because as a kid, he didn't do the normal little league stuff or summer soccer. He fished. That kid at 10 years old was fishing walleye tournaments with me. And he's just really experienced as an angler. And when I asked him the question, he said, well, no, we fished. I didn't play baseball. I don't even know if he knows who the baseball teams are. But he can tell you an awful lot about fishing walleyes or pike or whatever else. And so I think about how that's continued to be our family life, the outdoors. My wife loves the outdoors. She's hunted. She's taken plenty of deer and birds and other stuff. And fishing is her big thing. But we still celebrate, not in a big way because we do it so often, but we celebrate the fact that we have this wild protein that is still accessible to us. And last night we had salmon for dinner. A friend of mine on the Washington coast sent us some salmon. And I don't know about you guys, but there's something also about this hunting, fishing, outdoor lifestyle where we do a lot of sharing. Mm-hmm. All of you, I'm sure your audience can relate. Yeah, I shot an elk or I shot a deer and I shared it. And Shane Mahoney is often fond of saying, well, we don't go and buy a beef roast and then go share it with stop by the neighbor and say, hey, you want some of this beef roast I bought? But there's something about this lifestyle we have that allows us to share in a way that is deeper than any other part of my life as far as how the relationships are built. So it's a long answer to how I got here.
Yeah, I can feel that one with the sharing. Last night, we had moose. That's my daughter's 9, and she's grown up on game meat, and that's her absolute favorite. But yeah, Kyle can vouch. I've sent him unsolicited a great big cooler full of meat. So and that's 400 miles, Kyle. I put it in back of a buddy of mine's truck, and showed up at his house, and just knock, here it is. So.
Yeah, well, it was stone sheep you sent me, Steve, and we took it on a spring bear hunt, and 10 buddies were around the fire, and I brought out stone sheep and cooked it around the fire. And, I'll tell you, you can make friends pretty fast when you show up with stone sheep it was amazing. But yeah, absolutely. So, Randy, all the things you're talking about family, you're talking about connection to the land base. Yet here we are fighting for our life as hunters in a lot of these places. Yep. And there is this disconnect. You're absolutely right. You use the word connection to land, water, wildlife. You talked about the disconnect. So how come we're so vilified? All the things that we do as hunters, we appreciate friends and family. We're sharing. We have a connection with the land. But yet we're the evil ones. And it's kind of in the mainstream media now. COVID's helped us a little bit. People are starting to see this, the sustainable organic source of protein, all the right reasons we're doing it. But how do we get down this messy slope where we're fighting for our life? It feels like, when most of these things are, if you take out the killing, I'm sure everyone would be like fine with it, but something died to do this and people have an issue. How do we get here and how do we get out of it? More importantly, I guess.
This is a simplified answer, and it's what I always say, and maybe it's wrong, but I say, if you don't tell your story, someone will tell the story for you. And it's not necessarily going to be how you want it told. And I think we didn't tell our story for the longest time. Then when we started telling our story, those early stories that we had, when I think about TV, when I think about a lot of the visual world of how we told stories, it had nothing to do with food. It had nothing to do with landscapes, conservation, culture, society. It was all chest thumping, biggest, I made the furthest shot. I shot the biggest animal. I got, I filled the most tags. Well, if that's the story we're going to tell, that's the story that helps fill the narrative of others who want to tell a story about us in a negative light. So we got a lot of catching up to do. We got to talk about these things. And one of the reasons I left the network when I was on TV networks was the fact that they would never let us show the field dressing process, because they were on these big carriers, DirecTV, Dish, whatever, Cox Cable, Spectrum. And those carriers would say, hey, we're getting complaints that, you got a dead animal. Well, I'm sorry, but when you never show the next step of utilizing this as food and how it gets converted to food, you're going to leave people with the impression that it's just all about killing stuff. So through the media that we use, the format of that media, maybe some of the egos involved and the personal motivations, we didn't tell the stories the way that we read them from Jack O'Connor. And Jack O'Connor would write about a sheep hunt, but he wouldn't just write about the sheep. He'd almost glorify the sheep and glorify his indigenous guide that was helping him, and talking about the landscape and the knowledge that came and that he was learning while he was on this hunt. That wasn't part of the recent stories, I'd say the last 30 years in the hunting space. And so a little bit of it, I think we let ourselves get here, and so we're kind of getting the treatment we brought upon ourselves. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but that's how I see it.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, with you and your personal story and the stories you've told over the years, has there been an evolution? And I've seen an evolution in the industry. We see a lot less of the kill shot now. It's about the process, the experience, and definitely we're doing a better job, I think, at telling that story. And certainly some do it better than others. And you as the textbook version, in my opinion. Have you changed the way you portray what you do over the years, or has it been pretty consistent from the early days, Randy?
No, it's changed because I've left some of the distribution platforms that were very confining. And now I'm on other distribution platforms like Amazon, like YouTube, like podcasts, where you're not tied to a certain length. You're not tied to these types of formats. There's not all these can't do this, got to have a commercial break here, blah, blah, blah. So having those added freedoms has allowed me to tell the story the way I really wanted to from the start. So there's been definitely an evolution to that. I think there's also the benefit of listening to what the audience is telling you. I mean, I've made some mistakes along the way where I thought, well, this is what they'd want to see. And they're like, what? They give you this email where you scratch your head and say, why did I think that was a good idea? So I'll, like all of us, I think when we age or when we're putting ourselves out there to be criticized, you either take that criticism constructively or it eats you up and you just become a shell and you say, this is what I'm doing, hell with all of you. I've tried to take critique and criticism to craft or model the story, the message we're trying to give. So all that has resulted in some difference between how it started and where it is today. But the basic tenets that support what we do are still the same. We've always been about the conservation story, the story of the species, the story of the landscape, and the story of the people involved. If we fill the tag, great. If we don't, we still need to have a strong story.
Yeah, fantastic. So with that in mind, there's the Randy Newbergs of the world doing their thing and doing a great job of it. What is an everyday Joe or everyday Carol? How do they change their messaging? What do they need to do? There is controversy like, hey, we should be proud hunters and we should be able to show our trophy shots, and there's a lot of conjecture around that. What can we do better as a community, and what can the average hunter do to sort of improve our lot in life with the non-hunter, I guess?
I think if we look to our history, hunters have always prided themselves on being more informed, more knowledgeable, having a better understanding of the natural systems and the complexities of all that. And we owe it upon all of us to learn more, to study more, to research more, to be better students of the wild place and the wild space. And I don't think that we have to try to combat everybody who's got a negative opinion about hunting or hunters. I think our best thing we can do is be, I don't know what term we'd want to put to it, well-behaved, or some people like to say ethical. I like to say this, we represent what we do and how we do it in a positive light. But we're honest and we're truthful about it. We're honest that something dies so that we can live. And I don't care if you live in downtown Vancouver and you've never seen a tree, you've lived in the concrete jungle all your life, or if you live in a farm out in, Saskatchewan. It's the same theory. Something dies so that we can live. We tell our story in a way that people understand that we take responsibility for this. And when you take responsibility for something dying so that you can live, that's usually not well presented by making it about numbers or how far of a shot you took or whatever it might be. So there's little things in how we present ourselves, both within our community and outside our community, that can make a difference. And I think you bring it up, Kyle, that every one of us, when we have a hunting license, we are an ambassador for hunting. You can't say, oh, those people with TV shows or those people with YouTube channels or Instagram channels, they're the face of hunting. They are to some degree, but we all are. That's, if someone makes a mistake, it doesn't matter if you've got a platform or you're just Joe or Carol. You make a big mistake, it's going to make it in the newspaper. It's going to end up on the TV, the quick news wire. It's going to get put on Facebook. So it's a responsibility we all have. And I just say, be honest, be truthful, and be respectful. We're lucky, we're blessed in countries that allow us to do this, where we still can go and acquire our own meat out in the woods. So show respect for that process and that freedom and that liberty that we have.
Yeah, it's certainly a privilege. It's not a right, for sure. So I think we need to treat it as such, right? Anytime you have a privilege, you have to protect that privilege. Otherwise, you could easily lose it, and it wouldn't take a lot. And we've seen it here in BC, for sure.
You guys are an interesting place for us to observe.
I bet.
I don't know if you see it living there the way that we see it, in the States. But we look at BC, and it's this unbelievable place. You guys have wild beyond wild. I mean, you take the wildest place in the lower 48 of the United States, and it doesn't even compare to that run-of-the-mill wild country you guys have in BC. And you have such a strong culture of how your society evolved related to wild things, whether, going back to the fur harvest and the exploration of all that, the Hudson Bay Company, all the things that are part of your history. And hunting and fishing and trapping have been a big part of that. And now to see that you guys are dealing with what you're dealing with so quickly, it's a head scratcher for those of us watching from the outside.
Head scratcher for us living here.
People can't see this, but I see a video of Steve. He was just scratching his head when he was doing that.
Yeah. Well, and it is disturbing. It is scary. And then also, we're having some conservation issues in BC here too, right? We're wild sheep centric, of course. And, we're worried about populations. There's some, increased pressure, and we're seeing, increased harvest pressure and a whole bunch of stuff that is a concern, but then just general conservation stuff. And again, it comes down to predominantly habitat and disease and predation, the big three, the big four, right? It's there. And we're not immune to it. They call us the Serengeti of the North, but I'm afraid we're going to lose that title if we don't get our act together here. So,
yeah, I mean, you guys see it firsthand because you're out there in the mountains, in the woods. You're seeing this happening, whether you see it as an immediate thing or over the course of years that you've been out there. That's something that the person, and I don't want to pick on everybody who lives in Vancouver, but it's the only large metropolitan area I've been to in British Columbia. So they're going to be used as the example. That person's daily life probably does not expose them to the things that you do daily or weekly. Maybe it's your weekend trip or whatever. And so I can only expect that it's probably like here in the States, where it's more of an urban-rural difference of how you get to see the world. And you talk about things like disease, habitat loss, whatever. The person living in the big city doesn't understand that when they turn on the heat, that's natural gas that's running that furnace. It's probably coming from the prairies of Alberta or Saskatchewan. Somebody's paying the price for that, in terms of habitat, in terms of space. What happens to your fish and your fisheries when the demand for certain resources are such that it gets done in a way that damages your salmon runs or whatever other fishery. I think those of us who live it, see it, and it's part of how we feed ourselves, we're way more tuned into it. And so it's hard for us to separate ourselves and our behaviors from those outcomes. Whereas if you're removed from that every day, it's like, well, heat, I'm not sure where the heat comes, but, I turn on the heat and warms it up in here. Heck of a good deal. That's about as far as I think of it. And so I think as we get more urbanized, those trends don't get less. They probably it's probably a greater trend as we get more and more urbanized.
Well, you're absolutely right, Randy. We really see it here in British Columbia. Vancouver is just this behemoth, and I can't remember the numbers, but the number urban versus rural is just absolutely off the hitch in BC in particular. It's crazy how bad it is, and I guess I use the term bad, but there is this massive disconnect between our urban centers and what's happening on the land base, and people, all they see and our media's plays to it is the wolf call. Like that's or the grizzly bear hunt prior to that. And it's a little bit scary. Nobody's, a little bit about caribou, but again, caribou, what we're talking about, there's extirpation. And I know you're really familiar with what's going on with caribou in the lower 48 and up here in BC too. But people are talking about caribou only because they're concerned that wolves are dying. They're not care. They don't, as a general rule, people do care when I have conversations about them, but they said, yeah, but you shouldn't be killing these wolves. Right. So it's really interesting to see that the mainstream media and how they're portraying this in the media as well.
Yeah, we've had the big wolf issue here. And I say that wolves aren't a canine, they're a bovine. And people look at me like, don't you know your species? I'm like, no, they're a bovine, they're a cash cow. And for the groups that like the warm and fuzzies, as they call them, the charismatic megafauna, they're kind of the money train for them. So that's what they're going to focus on. Let's paint a story. Let's talk about the world through the eyes of a wolf. Well, a wolf is a wolf. They're not coming and eating the kids at the bus stop, but they're also not saving the world. They're not solving world hunger. So we have that side over there that has a lot of media, has a lot of presence, and a lot of money. And they're painting a non-natural story. It's not like the pack of wolves goes to the caribou and say, hey, we've got a contract here that says we get to eat you today. We'll be ethical, we'll be humane, we'll do this as easy as possible, but here's the deal. No, this is ugly, nasty, painful, bitter struggle that we get the pleasure of being removed from in our lives. And so they paint that picture the way they do, and it's not good for the long-term health of the entire system.
Well, and that's the part that frustrates me is the messaging is not genuine. It's not authentic. They paint a fragment of a story that's so tiny that in itself is probably true. But the reality is that the story around it, there's never an honest, genuine story around it. And you do that. You do a great job of that, Randy. You tell the story. You're honest. You're authentic. Something dies. But the other side doesn't, and they don't really play fair. And that's the thing. And then the media the general public just consumes what the media gives them, and they believe that now this is the truth because the media told us this. So it's a little disturbing, I guess, in that regard. So,
yeah. Do you guys do any of your networks up there broadcast the U.S. news program 60 Minutes?
They do. Yeah.
Okay. So I was on 60 Minutes talking about wolves. And they introduced me as a guy who hunts and traps wolves. And it re-aired for the third time in January. And my wife calls me. She handles a lot of my emails. She's like, what the hell did you do? You should see these emails you're getting. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you, honey, the 60 Minutes piece on wolves aired again last night. So I get to see that fringe element out there, and the ones who send me these crazy emails. It's like, if you want to see a little bit of glimpse into the psyche of a part of that population, you should read my emails that come in like that. It's like, whoa, oh, okay, that's what we're dealing with as far as part of that community. So I see it. You're right, Kyle. It's nowhere near the full picture. The full picture is a very complicated story, and they don't want to focus on the complicated. They want to make it something. Let's make this story easy so that we can polish it and shine it up to sell it in the way that makes us the most money and gives us the most influence.
Just out of curiosity, Randy, when dealing with that scenario, so you get these emails that flood in, do you even take the bandwidth to reply to any of that stuff, or you just because as we know, we're not changing any hearts and minds with that group. So do you just leave it alone and just walk away from it, or do you spend the bandwidth replying?
No, I don't reply. When I'm out in the public, occasionally I'll get someone who confronts me about what I'm doing, or like I wear a lot of fur. There's certain times and places where people just go off the rails because you're wearing a hat of a beaver you trapped. Well, I'm sorry, but that beaver was flooding this rancher's field out here, and it was calving season. And here you are buying beef. I'm over helping that rancher so he can put some beef in the market here. But you're mad at me. You wanted me to just throw this fur away and not make a hat of it. So you get those kind of people, and you're really not going to change their minds, right? I'm not going to waste the bandwidth on people like that. Now, if someone came to me and said, hey, I've never seen anyone wearing a beaver hat before. Can you tell me a little bit about that? That person is genuinely interested in trying to understand. I've got all the bandwidth in the day to talk to that person. The person whose mind is already made up. I mean, we have them in our own camp too. There's people in our own camp that I don't waste the time replying to because I don't have enough love or money to change their perspective on things. So you just got to decide, where can I make some progress here, or feel that I make some progress, and spend your time there.
Yeah, we're never going to change the mind of the ones that have got their mind made up, right? There's their way, there's our way. We're never going to meet in the middle. It's exactly that. We got to hit the ones that sit on the fence and are open to it. And I had a buddy of mine that I went to kindergarten with, going back 40 some odd years now. And I posted a picture of a bear. We reconnected on Facebook. And I posted a picture of a bear, and I got the inevitable, "Can you eat that?" And yeah. And long story short, I sent him a care package. He lives in Vancouver. 3 months later, he's got his hunting license, his firearms license. He's been up here half a dozen times, taken a couple of bears. His family eats it. He's recruited a neighbor into eating it. So yeah, it's just the right approach to it is what we need.
And to kind of tie those pieces together, Kyle, you said, what could the average person do? I think when hunters are investing into the landscape, investing into the species with our time, our money, our advocacy, you can't say that sheep conservation only benefits sheep. It benefits the entire landscape. It helps address disease issues in mountain goats. It addresses habitat issues for caribou, habitat issues that, if not taken care of, okay, if you really love wolves, without these prey species, you're not going to have any wolves to love. So where we can put our best face forward, our best effort, is putting our shoulder to the wheel for conservation. And we do it for the sake of conservation, and they're going to have a hell of a hard time criticizing us for the work we're doing for species. And we know that all species benefit when the land is productive, the water is clean, the air is clean, and we're trying to do the best we can. That it causes people to have to look in the mirror a little bit and say, well, what am I doing? I'm just a taker from that system. I'm not like these guys, these gals, putting back into it. I'm merely, I'm just the parasite to the system. I'm getting my energy, my resources, my paper, my timber, my food. What am I getting back? So if we really want to make ourselves known for what we really do, and get people to understand our strong connections that we have to these wild places and these wild things, conservation, volunteerism, money, all of that stuff, that's I think that's our best story to tell. And good luck trying to say that's bad.
Yeah, absolutely, Randy. So, it's interesting. I look at you and what you've done in the conservation community, and I look around the people that I work with day in and day out. They're super passionate, but there's also an element of hunters out there that don't give back as much, or they're not as interested. So, what makes you? One thing when I think about Randy Newberg, I don't think hunter. Actually, I think conservation is first. That's where my brain goes. Cool. I think for a lot of people, maybe it's the other way, but for me, I think conservation first, for a number of reasons. So where did that come from for you? Where did this passion for conservation? Because not every hunter has the deep ethos for conservation that you do. So where did that develop? Was it a young age, or is that something that came later in life? How did that work for you, Randy?
It was developed early in life. The awareness of it came later in life. So I grew up with a family that my great-grandfather had migrated from Finland to northern Minnesota. And he died 4 years before I was born, but his oldest daughter, my grandmother, was one of my most cherished adults in my life. And it was always about taking care of the system, taking care of the garden, taking care of the whatever, and always giving back and volunteering. She was, how she raised 3 kids, I don't know, because all she did was volunteer. And then I look at the little town I grew up in. The hunter education class was taught by my 6th grade teacher, Paul Reese, and taught by the owner of the hardware store, World War II vet, Owen Gordon. And they gave up their time. They took every kid whether they had a mentor to take them hunting or not. Paul and Owen would arrange, and my dad helped with them, arrange to make sure that this kid got to go hunt. And then growing up in a logging community, you saw how smart use of resources could be done with some consideration for habitat, consideration for wild things. So I was getting to watch all this, but it never sunk into me how it fit in the bigger picture. And then as I got a little older, I just started realizing that, this generational knowledge, this generational ethos was handed to me. I got to start doing something about it, because I don't want to be that person that inherits this amazing collective of hunting from my elders, my parents and grandparents, and just use it all for myself and selfishly not pass it on. The greatest shame would be to inherit something and then also borrow from those who come after you. That's not the outcome I want to see. So I lucked out. I have a wife who feels the same way. She's very modest, and she says, you go to that thing. You make sure that public access stays here. You make sure you're the one trained in public speaking. I mean, this was back when we were first married. And so between us, it was a fortunate mix that we both understand how important conserving these wild spaces, wild things. And I always say this, I try to say it in basic terms, clean air, clean water. Who doesn't want that? If I'm going to fish, I need clean water. If I'm going to hunt, I need productive, healthy landscapes. So seeing all of that, it just became part of what we did. We, when I first moved here to Bozeman, joined the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation fundraising committee, worked on a bunch of projects, worked on a bunch of land exchanges. My wife helped me co-chair the Ducks Unlimited committee in Bozeman for 8 years. It's just always been part of my family in the little community I grew up in. It's volunteerism and giving back was just part of what you do. It's like something on your calendar, Oh, Saturday morning, this is what I do. Thursday night, this is what I do. So I never really thought about it any further than that. And then as I got a little older, and I think when you have kids, you really start thinking about this generational transfer of opportunity, transfer of this legacy you feel you now have inherited. You start looking at it differently. And when my son was born, it was a huge pivot, or at least a refocus on what's at the core of the things that are dear to me. The greatest memories, the greatest experiences I have are with me, family, and friends doing outdoor things. So if I want to preserve and conserve those, I better make sure I'm putting back. And so and then when I started these platforms in 2008, I looked around and said, there's no shortage of opportunity to use your platforms to advocate for that stuff. Because I wish we did more of it collectively on if you took all the outdoor media platforms, I wish everybody would allocate more of their time towards conservation. And like this year on our podcast, we've already had, I can't list them all, but we are taking all these scientists who are doing all this amazing work, and we're saying, how do we help them make this scientific information consumable and digestible to our audience so they act on it, so they understand it? Because all the science, all the research that we fund in the hunting and fishing space doesn't do any good if it sits on someone's hard drive or it's just published in some scientific journal, because the public doesn't have access to it. How do we help these people give the public access to it? So the public now is like, that's important to me. What are we doing about that? And that becomes advocacy. That becomes funding. That becomes priority within the policies of our governments and our institutions. So, we're not going to make any money doing that, but I don't care. Fortunately, I have a good day job. I don't need to make any money. I'm here to do it because that's what's important to me. And so I know not everybody's given the blessing and luxury I have, where if you have media platforms, maybe it is your livelihood. My wife told me this isn't going to be our livelihood because you'll grow to hate it. So I've structured it this way where I do what I like to do, not what I feel is going to pay my bills. So it allows me to maybe look at it differently than some other media platforms. And I always have to remind myself when I say, hey, I wish we did more of this. I wish people would use more of their platforms for this. Some of them are probably thinking, well, yeah, Newberg, I don't have the day job that you have, okay? I got to make a living at this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is maybe when you started out, you were having to make decisions that were affecting the paycheck, but people have now recognized the authenticity of your message. And you've exploded because of it, right? That, people come to you because of that honest conversation that, and the message that's changed, right? That, you're telling that true story that maybe wasn't getting told in the early days, right? And people recognize you for it, and it's, your platform's exploded and your popularity as well. So it's really exciting and encouraging. So
it's, guys, people doing what you guys do every day. You guys go and advocate for wild sheep. Well, you asked earlier, Kyle, why is it that a lot of maybe hunters just aren't that engaged in it? Well, a lot of hunters will be like, I didn't draw my sheep tag this year. I didn't draw this or whatever. There's not enough. The quota got filled here. Well, I always remind them that the best way to improve your odds of having a bigger quota or drawing a limited entry permit is to put more sheep on the mountain. Put more elk in the hills, put more fish in the stream. That, there's fighting and arguing about, the last little piece. I often joke that I'm worried that hunters would get in a fist fight over who gets to kill the last remaining elk. I don't think we would, but sometimes the behaviors that get illustrated or expressed is like, hey, wake up. Let's do the things for habitat, for the productivity of the landscape. So we have more elk. So we have more sheep. And you guys are the walking example of that. And, I think that's another thing that makes hunting such a cool thing is how much of our progress is accomplished by volunteers and generous donors. If the rest of society allocated is the same percentage of their time and their money to important causes that we dedicate to conservation, poverty, lack of education, crime, a whole lot of our other societal problems would be a lot less. And I think we as hunters should be proud about that. And we should tell stories around that. Not to brag, but it is a part of who we are and what we do. And, watching you guys, do the things you do for the cause of wild sheep is an example, perfect example of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that for sure, Randy. And yeah, that's one thing I'm amazed about our wild sheep community and hunters in general. Don't get me wrong, but just the family of people that really are dedicated. And again, as you know, as a sheep hunter, there's lots of people that call themselves sheep hunters that have never shot a sheep, right? And that's the amazement for me that people are out there dedicating their time, talent, and treasure to a resource that they've never had the opportunity to even harvest one, or even hunt one for that matter, right? So it's a pretty phenomenal group of people that are able to do that. Amazes me daily.
On Saturday, Montana Wild Sheep Chapter, the state affiliate, is having their annual event here in Montana. And I'll go there. And to your point, the majority of people there have never taken a sheep. They've never been lucky enough to have that opportunity. A lot of them could never afford to write a check to go to Canada or Alaska to hunt sheep, but they're hunters and they have bought into the idea that my chance to maybe someday get a sheep is by making sure there are more sheep out on the landscape. And so they are there volunteering. They are there, contributing some money, even though they may not have a lot of money, but what they contribute is significant to them. And it's significant to the overall cause of who we are and what we represent. So I love going to those things. I get so excited when I get to go to these gatherings for conservation issues and efforts. because I look around the room, and a lot of times I do a keynote address, and I usually tell people, I stop and tell them, I said, all right, I want you to look to your left. And they look to their left, and I want you to look to your right. And now I want you to look around your table and look around this room. What you just looked at is the future of conservation of this species, or the future of this activity that you are here for. And that's absolutely the truth. It's not going to happen by the person out on the street. It's not going to happen the person too busy at the golf course to be bothered with stuff like this. It's you. You are the ones who are going to be the future of what this is going to turn out to be. And a lot of people are like, whoa, I never really thought about that. But it's a way to give them credit for what's been done and what will get done, but also give them the awareness that, it's on our shoulders. We're the ones in the yoke. We got to pull the wagon.
Yeah, the world's run by those that show up, right? So, yeah, well said for sure, Randy.
Yeah. I think the last stat I heard about hunter volunteer hours in BC alone was 300,000 a year.
Yeah, you think about that.
That's a lot of hours.
That's that's 150 people working full time. That's a lot.
That's why you're an accountant. I'm getting ready to get the calculator out. I'm like, okay, how's that? Bang.
I mean, that's the equivalent of a company that has 150 employees, and they're working full time every day towards that cause.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Randy, on the conservation vein, let's transition a little bit here. So, I heard about 2% for conservation through a podcast on, I think it was Beyond the Kill, and Jared Fraser, the executive director, was being interviewed by Adam. It was probably 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, pretty early days. And I believe Jared said that, you were I think you were the one that steered Jared to that role. He said, hey, buddy, you need to apply for this. And great job, by the way. You couldn't have picked a better individual to run 2%. Great. But can you touch a little bit on 2% and the vision there? And I think you were in the formative stages of that organization and the importance of it. I'm a member. Steve's a member. We believe in it dearly. But let's talk a little bit about 2% and why it's so important.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how long ago this was, but Jeff Sposito, who now is the president of Stone Glacier. He worked at Sitka Gear at the time. David Brinker, who now is at Peaks Equipment, was at Sitka Gear at the time. And Jeff came up with this idea. He said, why do they have 1% for the planet? Well, we should have 1% for conservation. And he asked me what I thought about it. I'm like, Jeff, I think it's a great idea, man. How can I help? So he and David worked their butts off. And then he recruited another accountant here in Bozeman, Brent Walker. And I said, guys, I'm already on too many boards. I'm happy to help and do whatever I can. But I can't be on another board. So they took after it. And, watching them create an organization from just an idea was really amazing. And they had 3 critical funders at the beginning: Sitka, Wild Sheep Foundation, and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. They saw Jeff's vision and said, Jeff, here's the money to get you up on plane, to get all the infrastructure in place. Well, it went from being 1% to 2%. And the idea being 1% of your revenue and 1% of your time, which is so reflective of how we do it in the hunting space. Our time and our volunteerism is probably more important than the money. And I thought, whoever came up with the extra 1% should be president. This is genius. I wish I could take some credit for it, but I had nothing to do with that part of it. And so how Jared got involved is I'd known Jared. He and I volunteered together on a committee. And Jeff Sposito says, Randy, we're just growing so fast. I need a full-time executive director. My wife, Sam, she's like, hey, we got 2 daughters, and you got another job. What are you doing there? So fortunately, they had the budget to hire an executive director, and I told Jared, I said, you ought to apply for this. You're the perfect guy. I think that was 5 years ago, something like that. And it's turned out to be really, really good. I mean, Jared's heart is in this. He sees the big picture. He lives it. He breathes it. And it's to the benefit now of 2% for conservation. It's, they're benefiting from Jared being there. But we're all benefiting from the work that Jared and his board, what they're doing and raising the awareness of conservation in our space.
It's such a benevolent organization, right? There's really everything that they do is to give back to conservation. There's no take for them, right? They're just keeping the lights on. And so it's such a great organization. Love what they do. And I'd love to see them continue to grow and love that, that you push them so hard and, share their messaging as well. So it's such a great.
Jared was at my office a couple of weeks ago. We're working on our, every year you certify yourself. And a couple of years ago, I realized that with the size of my platforms, I could probably do more by using my platforms to raise money and awareness than just me writing a check. So yeah, we still write our share check. But I started working on that, and I did a thing with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation where we take somebody hunting every year, and we pay all those costs. We incur everything. I think RMEF gives them a small travel stipend, and I think reimburses them for their tag costs and stuff. But everything else is like, we're going to do this. But you got to become a member of the Elk Foundation to get in on it. And the amount of money the Elk Foundation raises from that just floors me every year. And so it's kind of turned on the light for me that those of us with platforms, we can probably leverage our platforms for these groups in a way that we personally don't have the resources to do. Mm-hmm. So I did another experiment in 2021. Brad Remfrey, great guy from the Arizona Desert Bighorn Sheep Society, calls me and says, "Hey, Randy, you want to try to do that with a sheep hunt?" I'm like, well, yeah, what do you got in mind? So, again, we did a similar thing. I told Brad, I said, look, I'll buy a sheep hunt. You guys buy a sheep hunt for the winter. I'll buy mine, and I'll bring my camera crew, and we will film this, and let's see how much money we can raise. And they raised a pot full of money. They raised so much more money than I could write a check for. So it's just another way, I think, if you have platforms like I've been blessed to have, how can you use those in a bigger way? And it takes some work. I got employees that's all Paul does for about 2 months out of the year is works on these campaigns with the social media, coordinating with all of our sponsors for the gear packages and stuff. But it makes a huge difference in the long run. So 2%, Jared and I were talking about that. And it's like, how do we use the way you've done it, maybe as an example for some of the others to do it? I'm like, I'm happy to share. I mean, there's no secret to it. It's, you just, you show up every day and say, this is part of my calendar today. I got to work on this. And off you go.
Well, we stole the idea. So I'm the membership chair with the Wild Sheep Foundation. And one of our other directors, Charlie Kelly, is on the board of directors. He's a treasurer for Arizona Desert Bighorn Society. So Charlie he said, hey, we did this with Randy. And he goes, we had 850 members. We got 1,300. We had 60% membership growth. It was unbelievable. And he shared the metrics on it. We're like, okay. So, well, Randy's already taken. So so anyway, we've got the Wild Sheep Foundation has a membership appreciation drive similar to Arizona right now. So, the Association of Mackenzie Mountain Outfitters, they've donated a sheep hunt, and you can pick any of the 8 outfitters in the territory. So you pick your one. So you're the winner. Ooh. You get to choose. You can pick any eight of the 8. So we got Knoll, Gana River. We've got Raven's Throat. Just pick which one you want to go with, and pretty great opportunity. Adam Foss is going to go along, and he's going to film the hunt for you. So. We ripped the idea off you, Randy. So that's a great example. That's, we use that as our template. It's a little different. It's nuanced, but still very, very cool. And we appreciate that. And that's the inspiration for us where that came from as well. Right. So.
Well, now some of the pieces are making sense. Adam was down here doing photography work on a mountain goat hunt I had this year, and we share a lot of common sponsors and partners. And so he was here for 4 of those partners doing photography. And one night in camp, he says, "Hey, tell me a little bit about this sweepstakes stuff you do." I said, "Sure, what do you want to know?" So we talked about it a lot. And he said, "Well, I'm being asked to do something similar to that." I'm like, "You'd be the great guy to do it, Adam. Jump in, man. What's holding you up?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. Just wanted to see what you thought of it." So now I know why he was asking those questions.
Yeah, so it's all coming full circle.
Maybe I made a compelling sales pitch, or at least I didn't scare him off. So
Well, you did, because when I first called him, he's like, "I don't know," and he's like, "I got some concerns." And fair enough, and we talked a little bit about it. He goes, "Well, I'm going to go see Randy. We're working on this goat project, and I'm going to talk to Randy about it. I'll get back to you." And he did. So thank you. You sealed the deal on it, because he was, he obviously wanted to help out, but he just had some concerns, and that sort of stuff.
No, it's.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, every year when we draw our winner, I have this trepidation of, what if we get some drunk, somebody with all kinds of problems, somebody who's 400 pounds overweight or whatever. It's like, boy, I'm going to have my hands full.
Yeah.
And mostly I'm mostly worried about their personality and their attitude. In other words, can they go out in the woods and have fun when it's difficult? Can they go out there and get full appreciation for the experience rather than, well, I didn't get one, so what a waste.
Right.
I've been so blessed, knock on wood, every sweepstakes winner we've ever had has become a friend for life.
Mm.
And I think you look at the people, when you do these through conservation groups, it almost is a filter where you're pre-selecting people who have this same mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the story I told Adam. I've never had a bad one yet, and I may, but I think by doing it through conservation groups, the people who are reached by groups like yours are already people with our mindset. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty low risk.
It's like Jared said, conservation karma, right? So he always talks about that. So yeah, the conservation gods are looking after us, I guess, in that regard. Cool. Okay, that's great, Randy. I want to be respectful of your time here, but before we go, what's the plans? Any sheep hunts planned for this year? What's going on can you talk about it, I guess, is the first question I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're applying for tags everywhere. We didn't draw anything in Alaska. We drew some black bear hunts in Alaska. No sheep hunts. And I'm the hunt that I'm doing, the winter hunt with the Arizona Desert Bighorn Sheep Society, that's in 2023. That'll be with Ghana River, Harold and them. So the only way I'm going sheep hunting this year is if Montana finally takes this lifetime of points. And here we have, do you guys have a point system of any sort up there?
Sadly, no.
Be thankful. Because all it does is it just slants the table in favor of old gray-haired guys like me.
Right.
And so this will be my 31st application for sheep this year in Montana. I'm not going to stand by the mailbox waiting for a tag to show up. The odds are pretty slim. I apply in Utah, Nevada, Arizona. I've got 20-plus points in Nevada and Arizona. So odds are I'm not going sheep hunting this year. You never know. Yeah, there's always that chance, but I definitely am going next year. So
awesome.
Looking forward to that.
Very cool. Now, just one other quick one before we let you go. You hunted, I think I seen a backpack hunt you did, a horseback hunt you did with Backcountry BC and Beyond in BC.
Hey, let's not talk about that area. I was there this year.
Are you, Steve?
Yeah, I recognized it. We got two bull moose. We got snowed in. We got snowed in like the day after we landed, and it was wind and snow. We were in 3 days late because of the snow and wind. But yeah, we got two nice bull moose. Biologist I sent pictures to of the one rack. Said he figured it was 12 to 15 years old. Like it's got no points. It's literally just a big round plate, and then another 40-inch bull. But yeah, I recognize it. I'm like, wait a minute, I know where you are. The big caribou.
Yeah. Dustin and his group I've known Dustin for a long time, and he was on my podcast. Him and Cole Kramer and David Brinker, we were having this big event at Sitka. I'm like, yeah, whoever wants, grab a headset. Let's jump in here. Well, Dustin and Cole were on there, and after we got done, Dustin said, what's your dream hunt? You get to hunt a lot. I said, mountain caribou. He's like, what? I said, mountain caribou. He's like, well, I just bought a unit with mountain caribou. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So we talk about it, and he's like, if ever you're interested, let me know. So I see him at the Wild Sheep Show in Reno. I think it was 2017. And I'm like, Dustin, you still got those caribou hunts? He's like, well, why don't you come up moose hunting and add caribou as the add-on? I'm like, no. I want to come up caribou hunting and I'll add moose as the add-on. Yeah. He's like, all right, you're the only guy I know who is coming up here mountain caribou hunting. But, and so we worked out dates and went up there and just had an unbelievable experience. His people worked so hard and they had such amazing horses. And, sometimes you get lucky. The very first day, so they fly us in from Watson Lake. Yep. And then we ride horse for like 8 hours to get to moose camp. While the other hunter, Jim, great guy, he's mostly there for moose. So the plan is Randy and James and Blythe ride 10 more hours the next day to get to caribou camp. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a horse guy. Everyone thinks in Montana, right? You ride a horse. Well, if I had a horse, I'd die in neglect. That's how little I know about taking care of horses. So 18 hours in the saddle for me was that's more than my entire life I'd ever spent in a saddle. So the evening, as you saw in the video, the evening we're riding to caribou camp, we get there or get close, and here comes a herd of caribou, about 12, 15 coming off the mountain, and there's two bulls in the group, and one of them to me looks like a monster. And James, my guide, turns to me. He's like, get off. So we jump off the horses, and Blythe, the wrangler, she's got to catch all these horses that, it's a scramble. And I'm thinking to myself, if he tells me I can't shoot that caribou, I'm shooting it anyway. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'd never shot a caribou, and this was the most beautiful animal. These mountain caribou. Oh, yeah. When they start changing and getting their winter coat, just that striking color of the white, silver mane, and then the black, not black, but very dark body. They run into the spruce, and I'm like, oh, dang it. And James turns to me and said, in his Kiwi accent, and his eyes were big, he said, you want to shoot that caribou? I'm like, yeah, I do. So I'm thinking, well, at least I get to shoot it. Well, sure enough, we follow them for a little ways, and they walk out in this little opening, as you saw in the video.
Oh, it's a big one.
I ended up shooting it, and we walk up to it. And I have no relative comparison. I just think this is a beautiful animal. Lucky me. I get one the first day. And James looks at me and says, you have no idea what you just shot. Yeah. I'm like, what? He said, this is the biggest caribou we've ever shot. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. I'm like, no, we've never shot one this big. I'm like, come on. Well, we go take care of it, process all the meat. We're there for 2 days, salt in the Cape, everything. And we ride back to the moose camp where everyone's at. And when I see the reaction of everybody who we met there are a bunch of residents camped along a lake there. They saw it. They're like, oh my gosh, what a caribou. I'm like, oh, maybe James isn't jerking my chain. I was thinking that, this is just the guide trying to make the client feel like it was a great hunt. And then the Cash, the guy who does their shuttling, he comes in, he's like, do you realize what you got here? I'm like, well, I'm coming to that realization. So I just felt so blessed. And it was the dream hunt I'd had my whole life. And the lesson of that, kind of what I said at the end and what we scrolled across the screen at the end, is kind of a motto I've adopted the last 15 years. And that was hunt when you can, because you're going to run out of help before you run out of money. And I've been saving for this hunt since I got married. And a long time ago, I'd surpassed my savings to where I could go do it. And finally, my wife was like, how long are you going to keep saving this money? Like, you want to bring 10 people with, or are you just going? Because you got enough to go. And I got to thinking about what brought that. How did that make my dream list? And I was in 7th or 8th grade at our city library, or our school library. I couldn't afford a subscription to a magazine, but the big hunting magazines were in our library. And in study hall, I'd go there and watch them. And there was a story in there. I wish I had that article, but I read it. The story was compelling. The pictures were unbelievable. I said, if ever I could do one hunt in the world, it would be mountain caribou in the Cassiars of British Columbia, because that's where that story was.
Very cool. Very cool.
So you guys have such a remarkable province. I drive through it. I'm just enamored with it, every bit of it.
That Cassiar.
So thanks for hosting me for that.
Yeah.
And
it's a beautiful area. Kyle's been there too.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Steve, to your point about moose, Dustin Rowe, the outfitter, had said, well, you may as well buy a moose tag, and just in case you get done early, because caribou, usually we get done early. So I did. And 3 days later, this ridiculous old big moose comes, and I shoot that. And I was at the sheep show this year, just in February, in January. And I walked by Dustin's booth, and Dustin's waving me over. He's like, hey, this guy just showed up. He said he wants the Randy Newberg hunt. And the guy looks at me. He's like, you could see him stuttering, like, what? He's trying, like, is this for real? And so I stood there and visited with him for a while to tell him how the hunt went for me and what a unique place the Cassiars are. And I don't know if he ended up booking with Dustin or not. Maybe I scared him off, but just the landscapes that you have in British Columbia are some of the most remarkable pieces of country I could ever get the chance to spread my legs in. I mean, just stretch your legs, off you go. Just you don't have roads in a lot of it. It's just horse trails and game trails. It's like, oh man, to come here and do what I did is, I'll never get to replicate that.
Well, we got to have you back. You got to come back. We'll have you back, Randy.
Oh, well, let me know. I mean, can I apply for this sheep? Is it a raffle? Is that what they're doing?
Absolutely. So you get, if you upgrade, I'm sure you're probably as high as you can get in the foundation membership wise, but you upgrade, or if you're a 1 year, you extend, but you can also buy just tickets. You can buy up to 3 tickets on your own. So they're $50 a pop, and you buy, and we've limited to, I think actually maybe we went with 5. It's either 3 or 5. What we didn't want is somebody buying the hunt. We didn't want somebody coming in and dropping 25 grand and not giving the average person a shot at it. So yeah, you can either upgrade your membership, renew, or if you're already a Summit Life member, then you can just buy 5 entries into it. Just give Maddie a call in the office and she'll set you up. So yeah. Sounds
like I better be calling Maddie. Their office is only like 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. So maybe I'll just drive over there and throw down some hard-earned cash. But,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's
but here's the problem. If you draw my name, they'll think it's rigged.
we get that a lot. Everyone always thinks it's rigged, right? And the funny thing is, you get people that invest a lot of money in the organization. They buy a lot of tickets, and they win. And then they're like, well, that's rigged because that guy, he also won. Yeah, but that also guy spent $2,500 on raffle tickets over there too, right? So yeah, anyway, so yeah, it's never going to stop.
If I had all the money back that I've invested in raffles for conservation groups, and I don't view any of it as anything more than a donation, really.
Yeah.
But if I had all that back, I could go on a couple of sheep hunts.
Yeah.
Well, you guys as volunteers are doing more good with that money than it serves being in my bank account. So I have nothing but good feelings when I make those kind of donations.
That's awesome. Yeah, time, treasure, and talent, right? We need all three, and you take one of them out of the equation, and conservation doesn't happen. So, yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. We can talk all day, but I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And we'd love to have you back here in BC and chase some sheep or whatever we can get you up here for. So, thank you.
You don't have to say that too many times, Kyle. Steve, you might look around one day and here's some goofball from Montana sitting at the campfire next to you. But
more than welcome.
Thanks for all. Yeah, but thanks for all you guys do. I don't say this to stroke anybody. I say this out of the dear, full appreciation that's in my heart for people who are committed, like the two of you are, your fellow volunteers. This is the core of what makes hunting in North America what it is. The passion that you share, the work you put into it, the time you give of it, you and your families. It is so special and so unique to what the hunting world, hunting culture is. I can't thank you guys enough. And anytime I could ever help, I hope you'd reach out.
I appreciate that, Randy, and thank you again for everything that you do. Just a pleasure to speak with you, and just love what the message that you're sending, and just look forward to everything that you put out there. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.